Hello everyone, thank you for being with us on this crisp Saturday so that we can go over this event with you that started about 1 o'clock this morning. The information I'm giving you is preliminary, and I want to underscore preliminary. Certainly it's subject to and will, as you can well expect, be modified as the investigation goes on. So it started out like many of these events do. We received a call from a neighborhood. It was the Solterra community, which is off of Pine Tree Trail in Davenport. And the information we got was there was a huge party and there was fighting in the streets. So we arrived there, and upon our arrival, we didn't see any fights in the street, but what we saw was hundreds of people, to include juveniles and adults. Well, the first thing you ask yourself at 1 o'clock in the morning are, what are all these juveniles doing at this house party? As the investigation went on, we determined the reason for this house party was that a person rented an Airbnb, not an Airbnb, but a rental, short-term rental. It was not Airbnb, for a going away party because they were moving to Utah. Of course, when we initially get there, one thing that we encounter was this person that was hugely intoxicated, to the point that the deputies said, hey, this person needs medical intervention quickly, so we notified EMS. Well, now we're trying to clear a path so we can get the ambulance here. There's cars parked all over every place, and during the process of trying to get a path cleared on the roadway where it should have been open for EMS, our lieutenant, who's on scene with his deputies, is approaching a Range Rover. It turns out it's a 2019 Range Rover, and the windows are completely dark, and he's trying to get them to roll down their windows so he can talk to them, and he's going to move them along. They won't roll down the windows. They won't communicate. They immediately resist him. And that just is unbelievable, and that's not how normal society acts. So he moves to the back of the vehicle and immediately notices the Range Rover has a temporary tag that expired in May of 22. So immediately he thinks, well, this is another stolen vehicle because it checked all the boxes. And as he's going to the back of the car to get the tag number, the Range Rover takes off, sideswiping his patrol truck, and leaves the area. He does not pursue the vehicle. He's got a huge mess there. They're trying to get medical help. So he notifies that, hey, I've just got this Range Rover, the late model Range Rover that has fled from me with an expired temporary tag. It has committed a hit and run with property damage. So deputies who are not at the scene begin looking for the vehicle in the area. Just off of Ronald Reagan Boulevard, they notice this vehicle matching the description, parked next to a 7-Eleven. As the deputy starts to approach the vehicle along with a backup deputy, the vehicle takes off, and we attempt to stop the vehicle. Well, of course, does the vehicle stop like normal people stop? No, it flees, it runs. And we initiate a vehicle pursuit. By now it's almost 2 o'clock in the morning. The traffic is sparse, and certainly we have a very restrictive pursuit policy, but we do allow pursuits if the time, place, and location permits such, and it did this morning. So the pursuit goes to the Poinciana Parkway, where the vehicle exits and goes up the Poinciana Parkway and gets off on the Marigold exit in Poinciana area. At this time, we're in Osceola County. As the pursuit exits The deputy who is in the pursuit says, "I've lost the vehicle." He doesn't see it. He continues with his lights activated in the direction that he last saw the vehicle, and he drives upon a horrific vehicle crash. There's a four-way stop sign, and we know there's at least 3 other vehicles that have approached and are at the stop sign, and the investigation tells us that our suspect vehicle has now changed lanes to go around the stopped vehicles and T-bones in the intersection an innocent person who is simply trying to take his turn at the four-way stop. And that person is killed immediately. We notify the FHP to work the crash. The deputy now has driven up on the crash. He sees people fleeing from the motor vehicle, and he begins to pursue them, as do backup deputies. Here's 3 of our suspects. I'll start with Angel Rosello. Angel Rosello was in the vehicle. He fled. He hid from us. It took us quite a bit of time to find him. When we did, he would not surrender to deputies. He was hidden in the woods, and despite the warnings, he didn't. So he was apprehended by a canine and ended up with some puncture wounds from that. He is currently being treated at a hospital in Osceola County. Does he have a criminal history? Let me think. Oh yeah, he's got a criminal history. Trafficking in drugs. He's also has 6 felony and misdemeanor previous charges to go along with the charges he has now. He's from Kissimmee. The second one is Alaric McFarland. His nickname is Money. He's from Kissimmee. He has 11 previous felony charges and misdemeanor charges, not counting the ones that he's picking up today. Then there's Jarquez Page. He's known as Slim on the street. He's 23. And he's got 11 felony charges, felony and misdemeanor charges as well. So at the end of the day, now the investigation's ongoing by the Highway Patrol. They will certainly talk about the crash investigation whenever it's appropriate for them. I'm going to talk about the event. I do have to brag on the Highway Patrol. As you already know, they're an incredibly professional law enforcement agency. The support that they have given us and the independent investigation of the crash is without a doubt remarkable. So they're investigating. We've got 3 suspects in custody. They're facing a litany of charges in Osceola County, and we're in the process of bringing charges in Polk County. What do you suspect that among the charges they're going to face in Polk County are? Well, what did we find? We're waiting for a search warrant into the vehicle, but what we can see through the vehicle is what appears to be an AR assault type rifle with a handgun stock. So let's recap here. So what we have are 3 felons, 3 people that have been charged with felonies, 1 of them trafficking in drugs. We can smell the odor of drugs in the vehicle that's crashed. They're at a house party. They resist law enforcement who's trying to get resources to someone who is apparently in significant medical need. They flee. We chase them. Because this is a late model Range Rover, they drive off and leave us in the dust. We lose them at the intersection as they exit the Marigold, exit the exit for Marigold, and we exit as well. And we drive upon the crash a few seconds later where they have run into an innocent person and kill them. There is information there may be a 4th suspect. We're not releasing that information at this time because we don't have them in custody yet, if there is, in fact, a fourth suspect. But what we know is this Range Rover that's stolen was driven to North Carolina. You see, Jaquez Page is from the North Carolina area. By the way, he's being treated at the hospital for facial fractures in the crash. He's the only one that we're aware of, unless, of course, the fourth person has injuries. If there is a fourth person, he is being treated at the hospital, and upon his release, he will be transferred to the Osceola County Jail, and subsequently, we're going to seek charges of what? At least trespass in a structure, armed trespass, in a conveyance. So the investigation is really new, but what we have is some really bad actors here that decided once again to resist law enforcement. And as a result, a person who was just minding their own business was killed when these folks, and possibly one more, ran through an intersection and killed people, a person. So back at the house. So now we've got to deal with this. So what do we determine? This is the guy that rented the house, Davinsky Delpy. He is 21 years of age. Does he have a criminal history? Oh, of course he does, for battery. We have currently charged him with an open house party and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. And this investigation is still underway, but he appears to be the one that rented the house. But he wasn't by himself. Mayra Tirado was also arrested. She was arrested for a felony. While we're trying to break up this party in this neighborhood where normal people are trying to sleep, she batters one of our deputies. She's belligerent as we're trying to break the party up and send people along their way. She's belligerent and she batters our deputy. Will we arrest her? Let me think. Does she have a criminal history? Oh yeah, she has a criminal history of what? Battery on a law enforcement officer. So she's arrested. And then there's Melissa Martin. Melissa Martin is 17. Does she have a criminal arrest record? Let me think. Oh yeah, she does. 2017 for grand theft, and last night she is charged with open house party. She is currently 17 years of age. So what started out as a out of control house party ended up with the death of an innocent person when the really hardcore criminals fled from the deputies and were ultimately lost in the pursuit. And while they were lost in the pursuit, we were looking for them, and as a result, we drove up on the crash. We asked the deputy, were you close enough? Did you see the crash? And he said, no, I didn't. He said, I was seeking them. I was trying to find them. They were violent and dangerous. We suspected that they would only become more dangerous. And then we determined that they were even more dangerous than we knew because the lieutenant originally at the scene didn't see what appears to be the assault rifle in the car. Folks, this is not new. This is deja vu. We're seeing it over and over and over throughout the Central Florida area, and I suggest around the nation, where a group of criminals get together, at least one with a drug trafficking history, with guns and stolen vehicles, and then resist and fight the police. Let me make one thing clear. While you slept peacefully in your home last night, the people you hired to deal with the conflict for you put their life on the line, stood in the gap between good and evil to arrest these people. And unfortunately, an innocent person died because they were going to resist and flee from the police, and ultimately were successful in getting away from us and we found them as a result of the crash. The Highway Patrol is doing all of the crash investigation, and I'm thankful for the professionalism and the job that they're doing, and they're cooperating with us. We're still on scene. We're still seeking search warrants for the suspect vehicle, and there will be other details, I'm certain, once we sort this out. This is what we know at this moment in the investigation. Any questions?
Do you know where the gun came from? Who's the registered owner?
We do not know that yet because we don't actually have our hands on the gun. We can only see it through the window of this very dark tinted car with a flashlight. Certainly, let's see, I'm going to take a wild guess here that it's stolen too, okay? But no, we don't know the details on exactly own the gun, or if there's only one gun in there. We can only see one gun at this point in the investigation.
And you're still working to get the search warrant for that?
They're in the process of getting the search warrant, and certainly when we get the search warrant and get the gun out and identify it, our public information officers will take a photograph of it and send that out to y'all to use.
Can you say who was killed, man or woman, like age range? Or?
You know, I can't because, you know, the Highway Patrol's doing that investigation, and it would be inappropriate, but certainly at this point in the investigation, from all of the initial information, this person had pulled up at the stop sign. It was their turn to go. There was at least 3 other cars stopped for the stop sign when this car just blew around them and T-boned this person, which makes me just exceptionally angry.
Homicide going to be a part of this? I didn't hear that charge.
Well, the Highway Patrol will bring the appropriate charges, and certainly what we have here is an intentional act. It's a radical, out of control, intentional act by a bunch of daggum people with criminal histories, and possibly one more I'll stick up here at some point in time.
The 17-year-old, you said that she was charged with the open house party, so did she plan the party and host it with the Da Vinci guy?
Yes, she did.
Okay. And then have you guys talked to the actual owner of the rental, or did they know they were going to throw a party?
No, we have not talked to the owner of the rental. We do know this, that it's not unusual for these home rentals to be used for house parties. Now, quite frankly, my understanding is, and this is just what I've heard, I don't have the empirical evidence, that if they determine it's for a house party, most professional rental companies don't rent it to you. So, but they don't always know. Now, if they put it in their database, they'll know not to rent to these people ever again.
And that initial intoxicated person that they were trying to help, how are they doing? Are they okay, or?
They must be okay, because obviously I don't have my homicide team out there looking at that. They were transported to the hospital, and we'll release that information. We've been consumed with the massive investigation, so we've not doubled back around, but there's been no reports to us from the medical team that has not turned out well. But this person was to the point that our deputies thought that and were seeking to get them emergency help, when of course, who do you have in the middle of it? People who don't care about life. And by the way, I understand the vehicle, not only do we have people from North Carolina, but I understand the vehicle's stolen out of Martin County. But we're still having to search all of that out as well.
33 felons among the 3 of the guys, and is there no longer the 3 strikes rule for licenses, or does that vary from state to state?
Once again, you have to look to see what the felonies were, how old they were, and what the outcome of them. You know, as you well know, we arrest on probable cause. They prosecute beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. And there is plea negotiation, so they might have pled down some of these cases. I don't know why they were out. I know one angel here that goes by the name of Locke, L-O-C, on the street, has one charge of trafficking in drugs. But at the end of the day, you know, folks, you know, it outrages me because this is behavior that's outside of the norms of society. They don't care. They don't care. And the only thing that's important for them is that they do what they want, when they want. They ignore everybody. They ignore law enforcement, and they resist us at every turn. And you have this young lady here who's 18 years old and has already gotten her second arrest for resisting law enforcement officers by battering them. So this gives you an idea of the type of people we're dealing with. It goes back to what your mama said when you were young. You know, nothing good happens after midnight. Here's another example of that. Okay?
Sure. For the record, it was Iowa that they were going to, not Idaho.
Iowa? Okay, Iowa.
Utah?
Yeah, not
Oh.
Utah.
Okay.
Iowa, not Idaho. Okay. Not Utah, but they might have. I mean, they came from North Carolina. They stole the car in Martin County. They're here in Osceola.
But the party planners were leaving for Iowa.
That's the party.
That was the government.
Well, no, the party planners are the ones that the party was for.
Right, and they were throwing the party because they were moving out.
And we're going to send them with some criminal history when they go to Iowa. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.